Hello, hello, hey, it's your girl and your host, Alma T. Welcome to Touche Life. I am so glad that you are here. I'm so glad that this found you and you found it. And I know that God has something special just for you being here. Listen, listen, listen. I'm excited about this episode number 2 because we're still in the showdown. Showdown is a whole theme, right? Because we're doing face offs with every lie, everything that we believe that wasn't of it. But this is the face off. Okay. And so, again, I'm glad you're here. If you are new to my channel, please like, subscribe, and eventually I know you will share. You can also subscribe to keep up on the know how and our Community of Hope outreach programs at touchelife.com. You can subscribe there so you stay in the know. And I appreciate you so much. So, listen, let's jump right into it. Let's get right into it because I'm excited about today. I hope you read the title. Did you read the title? Go where you are celebrated and not tolerated. Okay. So, here at Touche Life, we're strength through truth, testimony, and transformation, right? This is where we get our strength. We're a community of hope where we celebrate one another. We believe in one another and we realize that there's nowhere you can't come back from, right? Okay. So, let me take it back. Many of you have heard my story and know about my story, but there are a few parts that I want to throw in. Once I made the transition from Florida to Georgia, right? I'm a Florida girl. But there are some things, someone was saying, oh my goodness, you're just doing so much, the books and the this and the that. This is nothing new. It just seems like it's all falling out like what? It's just coming out of nowhere and just being spat out now because I'm finally in alignment with my assignment. A lot of times we're pursuing the assignment, but we're not in the alignment. You can do the right thing at the wrong time with the wrong people. You can do the wrong thing at the right time with the right people. You can do the right thing at the right time, but with the wrong people. Y'all get what I'm saying? You can do it in the wrong place. All those who, what, when, where, how, why, you got it right. But check this out. There came a point, even before I left Florida, God had me start looking at my relationship. So first of all, before leaving, once I had my divorce, I told you I went through that. So the first thing I realized I was holding on to things that weren't serving me. And I don't mean serving me like piously. They were delaying my destiny. They were sabotaging who I was. So even though I was in a very narcissistic, occultish marriage, period. Okay. I had to stop and ask myself, now, of course, I didn't know it was a cult when I got into it. And he really didn't start acting out till my daddy died. But apart from that, there were signs. I'm not going to deny that there were signs of mistreatment, signs of he's not mature enough for you. He's not going to, something just wasn't, but he was my child's father. I was pregnant at the time and, I chose, especially with my daddy's beckoning, to get married. Now I know that he died shortly after my marriage. I know now that was his way of wanting to make sure I was, with somebody when he passed, but that's a different story. So going through that, I had to stop and look at myself and say, what is it about you that felt you had to stay in the marriage under these conditions where he would leave 7 o'clock in the morning, come back 11 o'clock at night? Why was I so in fear of rebuke from the church? Now, I had a great pastor, but sometimes if we're not careful in religion, we fall under people pleasing and oppression in anything. So it was always, I had certain mentors and whatever the case may be, it was certain other couples that were so-called ministering to us or witnessing to us or mentoring us in our marriage. And I started looking, they would always put on me because they had been married so long. Oh, you can do it. Oh, this is what you need to do. Like almost I needed to suffer just to prove my point to God. And that's not the way God was. So I remember when it finally came to my divorce and the Lord freed me, I was crying out to the Lord on the side of the bed. And I said, Lord, I don't understand. I don't understand. I'm trying to do everything you tell me to do. And I don't understand. I know you don't want to be here, but you say you ain't. Da, da, da. And the Lord said, his heart is not with you. And I said, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? Why do I have to just stay here like this? And the Lord said, because he had showed me everything. He had showed me what the mother was doing, showed me what my ex-husband was doing. He showed me all of this. And but he wasn't letting me progress at all either. Because God is not going to waste his glory. It won't be wasted regardless. But he ain't gonna let you waste what you're doing either, especially if you're still trying to follow him. Now, if you choose to deny him, that's one thing. But he's not going to give you all of these things he wants to give you to have you waste them on foolishness and fools. So the Lord said to me, I said, what am I supposed to do? He said, you've done everything but leave. I said, but God, you say you hate divorce. He said, right. I said, I hate divorce, but I never said I hate the divorcee. And I could feel him kind of like, I was like, you did say that. He said, okay. You know, at that point I had been abandoned. So he was like, in my children. So once I felt that, there was this release, and he gave me Romans 8:1. He said, now there therefore is no condemnation on those who are in Christ Jesus. I was in the Lord. So once I was able to let that relationship go, he had me start looking at a series of relationships. Now I took too long on a lot of them because I just didn't want to let them go, because I'm like, that seems too harsh. It can't be me. Told you about the young lady who was basically stalking, keeping up on Facebook and all that. I said, why am I allowing that? What spirit, what open door, what access did the enemy have with me that I was inviting these relationships in? It was my need to help, to people please, to not want to hurt anybody because we've been friends so long, even though we had outgrown each other. But when God will allow you, when we hold on to anything longer than we should, God will allow it to hurt you because they need to go. And he knows what it takes for them to need to go. So I let her go, and I had to start looking at the relationship. So once we moved up this way, even right before we moved out of Florida, right before my love passed away, there was another friend girl, and I started looking at people who didn't respect boundaries. And she was someone, although she was there for me, and this is a point that I need as we're growing and transforming, we as women definitely need to understand. You cannot be friends with someone who is jealous of you, envious of you, or wants to be you. If their spirit is not agreeing, you have to be cognizant of it and be bold enough to remove yourself from it. That is dangerous. And I started noticing a person that does not respect boundaries is a very dangerous person. So this person, we could go somewhere and she would voluntarily just try to set me up with people, knowing that's not me. Like she would say, don't you think she's pretty? Why don't you ask her out? Like, I'm like, hey, I'm here to pay a cell phone bill. What are you doing? And there were certain emotional times, like right after the divorce or trying to move with the kids or something like that, that I really wasn't even in the mood to battle or strife or whatever, but I shouldn't have had to, because she should have respected my boundaries and she didn't. And that went on for a little while, maybe a year or two, because she was someone that we were definitely there for each other when we went through things. But I want you to understand that sometimes people are there for you at your lowest because that's where they want you to stay. That's where they're comfortable with you at. She was what seemingly would be a very successful person. She definitely made more money than I did at the time. What would seem successful, type A personality, but you have to be extremely miserable to continue to try to take over someone else's presence instead of aligning together as friends, if that makes sense. True friends aren't competing, they're complementing. Relationships are complementing. That's why I don't really get into when people date. They say, I need somebody compatible. Compatibility is good for a season, but you want somebody complementary. Because when you get compatible, compatibility means this is where we fit right now. See, my vest, my gray fur, is compatible with my black top right now. It's not as compatible with my beige pantsuit. You understand? You want something complementary. Let me give another example. When I was 19 and 20, I was compatible with 6'2" dark skins that could run 10 miles a day because I worked out 5 to 10 miles a day. And I love to drive for hours at a time and be in the car. And I love road trips. And, I love to be out on the scene. I wasn't a partier, but I love patios and backyards and I love that type of stuff. I was compatible with loud music. I was compatible with Ghetto Boys music and Tupac, and I was compatible with that. I was compatible with coffee, medium caramel iced coffee, cream and sugar. I was compatible with that. I'm no longer compatible with 10 miles a day. Maybe 5, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5, but not compatible. I'm not compatible with the same type of music and sceneries that I was 20 years ago. When you're complementary with someone in any realm of relationship, they complement every stage and you're able to fit in every stage you go. So that's why it's important to grow. It's not just romantic relationships that grow, you keep falling in love with every version of the person as you all mature, but it's friendships too. The same wild college girls are complementary with the executives or the working girls, and then the mamas, because those are friendships and you grow. It don't mean you agree on everything, but it means your friendship intertwines and complements each other. When you get to the point where your friends aren't complimenting you, they're competing against you, or they're conning against you, they're not your friends. That's not a healthy relationship. And you need to be wise enough to see it, bold enough to say it, and strong enough to remove yourself from it. Because it is only added weight that will stagnate you. Let's just say you don't really understand it, but something's off in your relationship. So you're constantly watching this person. You're constantly having to give negative energy, negative attention to what they're doing because something ain't right. But it is. You're wasting time. That's energy you could have been putting into something else. Just like we have a pain in our body and it signals something wrong, when there starts to be pain in relationships, it's signaling something's wrong. So anyway, I started looking at this person and then the comments started, or the, there's a certain thing called monitoring spirits. Again, a lot of times we in the church, and I mean it as a whole. Now, I know now in social media days, there are a lot of people actually talking about spiritual wickedness and occults and witches and practices and monitoring and spirits and serpentine spirits and, Leviathan. We're talking about it now, but 25 years ago, we weren't talking about the same. 15 years ago, before TikTok and all that, and people weren't talking about it as much. So you have monitoring spirits, and some monitoring spirits are only around and assigned to find out what you're doing so they can, the spirit on them is assigned to try to destroy your destiny, hold you up, stop you from doing what you're doing. They're monitoring, they're mocking, so they can take it back to the imps. Because they're especially if you're a believer of Christ, just like there's an angel assigned to you, there's a demon assigned to you. And that demon needs access to know what's going on. You can't be attacked when they don't know what's going on. So I started noticing little comments when they would call and they would inquire about things that they wouldn't normally inquire about. Slick comments, always trying to show me up. If always, and more importantly, let me tell you another area you watch with friends. Watch friends that celebrate your sin but are quiet when you win. Let that sit. Watch friends that celebrate your sin but are quiet when you win. So they celebrate you sleeping around, which I didn't. I mean, but I'm saying I'm using this. They'll celebrate whatever sin you're in. You're sleeping around, you're on drugs, you're making a fool of you, so whatever the case may be. But when you win, when you have a success, it's not celebrated. It's inquired about, but it's not celebrated. There was a time when I noticed we would go out and I would have a drink and she would love for me to get drunk. Not that now that's on me if I did get drunk, but not that I would get drunk. But even if I had a drink or two, she would really push it because I want you to have fun. No, you want me to be out of character. No friend would want their friend out of character. We ought to be protective of our friends. So I, even though I didn't go out much, would always deny going anywhere with her unless it was a group. I might show up because it wasn't safe. Learn to put yourself in safe places. This is how you transform. Remember, Revelation 12:11, and they overcame him, the enemy, by the blood of the Lamb, Jesus, and the word of their testimony. I am testifying to the decisions I made and staying in wrong relationships for too long. It cost me too much. So eventually I had to, and then, so when that would happen, but there was one particular night where we wanted to go out, but I had just published and copywrote one of my first poems. Actually, I've had poems for years, but I actually copywrote this one. And it was going crazy on social media. And I copywrote this poem and she looked at it and was like, huh, and threw it down on the table. Here, get another drink. Here, you should have it. No, you should have a drink. I said, no, I'm good. But you need to learn how to look at people and know how to deal with people who celebrate and entice and want to see you in sin and bondage, but are quiet when you win and are free. They're on an assignment of the enemy. They may not even know it, but you need to, for your destiny's sake, remove yourself from it. You are holding up your God call. You're holding up your God. They are blocking a spot from a real friend. They're blocking a spot from your destiny and your path. So that was a weight that was gone. I looked at, one of the hardest relationships, especially once I got up here, there were 2 hard phone calls I had to make. I had to call one of my close aunts. And for years, and again, this is all a part of the purging process. And literally, I was doing work at the time I had to do this. I was doing work. I was in the middle of doing something. I was working on a huge goal. And I remember the Lord said, stop and call them. So I'm not stopping to call them. Right? No, I got to do this. And he said, stop and call them. He told me 3 times. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. I stopped. I text. I said, hey, you got a minute? Called and we had a conversation. This is an aunt that I love, I respect and admire in many ways. But there was something in her. And the old people used to say, some about our spirits don't agree. Some of my spirits don't agree. And there would come a point where I would feel, one, I wanted her approval for a lot of things. And the Lord dealt with me on that, because once he's told you to do something, you don't need the approval of the committee. You need the approval of him, of Christ. That's it. But I was like, who am I? That was me down in myself. Admit, testify, but not no more. So he told me to call her. And this was the aunt, like I said, whenever we spoke, not every time, we had great times, but there were times when we'd speak, I would be left feeling so, dang, almost. And I had to check to see if it was me, like, you sure it's just not you? But I noticed there was always a something attached to it. Like if she read one of my poems, she'd say, that's good, but what if you would have did this? It's always something better. It was never good enough. And you have to be mindful of people where it's never good enough. It was almost a feeling of condemnation in almost everything from parenting to whatever. And sometimes we think a little bit more highly of ourselves than we ought to, you know. So, but the Lord had me confront that situation because there was a conversation where she actually compared me to my daughter. And I don't even know if she's aware she did it. She said, "Oh, she came in, she looked so pretty. She was dressed like this. And oh my goodness, she commands attention in the room. She's so powerful. She's more powerful than you were at that age, but she's so powerful." And it just, whoa, 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 hey. And I said to them, first of all, I'm not surprised if my child walks in looking good and strutting and commands attention in the room, because that's how they were raised. They were raised with the standard. And let me put this plug here. Parents, mothers especially, don't knock down your standard because it's not popular. It's okay to require a standard for your child, especially the body of Christ. Your standard don't have to be what everybody else wants. It doesn't have to be. I had a problem if we were all out and my children wanted to drop to the ground, like a couple birthday parties we went to, like, not saying they would never do it, but that's not my standard. I require more than that. Now, what they did when I wasn't looking after they got grown, that's their business, but if they did it, it wasn't because they didn't know. Never apologize for having a standard. So anyway, I told them, I said, I'm not surprised when they do that because that's how they were raised. I said, that's my standard. What was your standard of them? For you to be surprised that they did that. I'm not surprised when they dress like that. I'm surprised when they're on Instagram acting like a fool. I said, and furthermore, you don't compare me to my child. That's my seed. And it came across extremely wrong. So anyway, we had that conversation. I said, I love you. And I know it probably wasn't your intent, but I had to confront the spirit. We didn't talk for about a year, and I was fine with that. Not that I didn't love her and I didn't miss her. I prayed, and I will always pray. But I have to confront the spirit. We have to confront the spirit. That's why the Lord says, try the spirit by the spirit. Like I told you in a couple of videos before the podcast, even lunch, when I went to that young lady that was stalking a childhood friend that was all on Facebook, requesting different names and all that, wouldn't leave me alone and all that, just because of control. When I confronted her and I said, what I need you to do is give me and my children space. That's what I need you to do. You don't need to bring gifts to church and act like we're still friends because you're trying to prove a point. Give me and my children space. When you confront that spirit, I told you it was like taking off a too tight bra. That's what happens when we get peace from the Lord. It's like when we're obedient, there's something that falls off. The baggage fell off. So when I did that with my aunt, that was one thing. And then the next one I had to do was I had to call one of my daughters. In love. I actually wound up talking to both of them, but I talked to one of my daughters and I told them, love, and let me tell you something. Everybody know me. I will pick up the world about my babies for my six. So I love them. They are my gifts, my seed. I wasn't the perfect parent, but I was a dang good mother. I was a dang good mother because I did the absolute best I could. And to be perfectly honest with you, there's not much I wouldn't do different. There's not much I would do different. Mm-mm. Knowing what I know now, fighting for their souls, I would still make a lot of the decisions that I made. Mm-mm. Yeah, I really would. Because they weren't just given to me to be little lookalikes. They weren't just our children aren't giving us to be little lookalikes. They aren't giving us, I was more concerned about their soul, not just their college and all that kind of stuff. Those things are important. But if I fail to give them Jesus, whether they took him or not, then I fail. That's just facts. But get that in a minute. I had to call that daughter and I had to tell her because every time I called her, she would somewhat act out if she was around people, and those two who had their prodigal experience, they had that thing where when they were around people, especially people from our church that we went to, where all of that started, they would ignore me or act some type of way. But outside of their call like nothing happened, show up at the house like nothing happened. And you know, I didn't teach them to allow anybody to treat them like that. So I have to show you, you're not going to treat me like that either. No, 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 no. We keep the same energy. I love you with all my heart. I'm not going to force a relationship with you. You know that I'm here for you. That's why whenever there's something that you need, you know where you can go. But, and I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about just to talk because they know I love them. But I had to set that boundary. Because one thing I realized when I looked again at that relationship I was in that marriage, I wasn't raised like that. I was raised with an amazing man. My father and mother were absolutely amazing. So what happened that I accepted that? One, I loved my father so much and honored him so much that when he said do something, I did it. He said marry him. He thought it was a good idea. Even after 9 days before my wedding, I sat pregnant at his house in front of him and his mother. And his mother's, it was a Sunday afternoon. It was April 9th. We got married on the 22nd. And I remember going there after church because he didn't go to church and he used to love coming to church. And I remember having on a blue dress with some blue flats. And I sat down, dispatcher brain, and I sat down at that table. And it was no dinner that day. Normally we went over, she would offer food. She didn't offer me none that day. And I sat here, she sat in front, went over, and he sat here at the head. And I said, she said, oh, we're having a family meeting. And I'm thinking to myself, well, my daddy not here. I said, oh, okay. So I sat down at the table and she said, yes. So he was just, she said his name. He was just telling me, she was rubbing her hands, that he really doesn't want to marry you. He's only marrying you because your daddy bought your dress. He's sitting there like this with his face away from me the whole time, not saying anything. And I looked and I said to her, well, I appreciate, I said, well, thank you for allowing me to have a seat. I said, but let me say this to you. I'm a woman like you're a woman. I've always been Shay. I've always had a little, I'm just being honest. I said, but with all due respect, this isn't a family meeting because my family isn't here, first of all. Second of all, you didn't ask me to marry him, so you can't tell me not to marry him. If he doesn't want to marry me, he needs to tell me himself. Now, technically, that was more for her because if he wanted to say something, he could. And I understand that. But that was directed towards her because you don't sit me down like that. And I remember her saying to me, oh, you're a tough one, aren't you? I said, yeah, you're not going to run me like the rest. That was April 9th. His father happened to come home. It was a whole different story there, who I love. He said what he had to say to him and told him, if you're going to be a man, be a man. Told me anything I needed, he would be there. That was a different story. I got up and left. I said, I love you. Thank you very much. When you're ready to talk to me, you can. If not, me and my baby will be fine. I left, went all the way to my daddy's house and fell on my daddy's lap and boo-hoo cried. Oh my God, I cried. I was a grown woman crying because I was a daddy's girl. But my daddy died when he was 90, but he was there. He taught me and he said to me that if he came back that night, marry him. But if he didn't, I'd be all right. He happened to come back that night, and I honored my daddy. Now, the right response would have been, first of all, honestly, let's just be real. This is why the Lord has us wait before we make these sexual decisions, because I was pregnant. But he still allowed the baby, and she's an amazing blessing. And she made me a mommy, and that's my baby. I have 6 beautiful children, and they're my babies. I look at them just like they're firstborn. Like, I love my babies. So she was born. But I could have avoided a lot had I been obedient. So that's first. And second of all, waiting on my God man. He might have been a good man outside of his mother, but waiting on my God man would have been a better situation. Because truth be told, we were young and I was in love with, I was in strong like, and then I was in love with being married because I love the church. I love marriage. I love families. And I wasn't no runaround girl. I just wasn't. So, I mean, I wasn't a goody two shoe, but I wasn't a runaround girl. So that was that. And then, so I could have avoided a lot, but that was a good sign right there. You know what I mean? And I honored my daddy more than I honored what the Lord would have said. So that's on me, player. That's on me. And I had to look at that and own that and repent of that, because that's a form of idolatry. Anytime we put anything over what the Lord says, that's idolatry. Um, so in doing that, I had to have a conversation with my daughter, let them know, listen, I can't let you treat me like this. So I will no longer overly pursue a relationship with you. If you don't want it, that's fine. Just know I'm here and I love you. And when you're ready, let me know. And I'll be here. And those were tough words, because I've always had this big vision of all the kids, you know, we're all still together, even if not their dad. So that was different. But I had to prune to progress. And pruning hurts, but it's necessary. So as we get ready to go into this Thanksgiving season, family and friends and holidays, I really want to invite you to have a conversation with yourself. Have a conversation with yourself. Find out what areas may be clogged because of unhealthy relationships. Are there people in your life, and I'm not talking about if you're immature and can't take correction. I'm not talking about if you're immature or you're just angry, or maybe you're dealing with something, maybe like a spirit of rejection, and nobody can ever tell you anything, and really you're taking it out on somebody else. I'm not talking about that. That's something that you also need to deal with. But I'm talking about, are there relationships in your life, even with this being Domestic Violence Month? I met my domestic violence counselor, Chandra, in October. Wasn't even for me. I was there for other women, but I found out what I was going through. Are you being mistreated, and are you allowing it? And if you are, why? What do you fear? I feared judgment of God, because that was taught to me. Like, you're going to be judged. Matter of fact, one of the ministers, who's one of the godparents of my children, told me that I would be, what was it? Punished? That's not the word. What word is it? Basically punished by God. And I'm like, that doesn't even sound like the Lord if I'm trying to do what's right. You know, it just didn't come across. So there was this bondage. And that's what happens in unhealthy relationships of any sort. There's a bondage because there's an unnecessary tie. So again, I had those conversations, confronted the spirits. They were dropped, but I was free. And I all of a sudden started moving. It's like bricks being moved from your path so you can walk. I have spoken to everybody since then. May have took a year, but I've spoken to everybody since then, because I'm different. And you understand my grounds. Oh, I didn't speak to one. I haven't spoke to one because I cut that conversation. I didn't feel it was ready to happen. But as far as so that one friend I haven't spoke to, but I love them and I pray for them and I do anything. I be there for them in a healthy way. But you're not going to come to me in an unhealthy way. And after that, things just started happening. I had a clearer mind. And so, again, this is an opportunity for you to, in order to embrace who you are, you got to know and own it. Okay. And it's okay. If you are not a club person, but you, for some reason, you just haven't accepted the fact that you might be a homebody, a patio person with a glass of wine person, or a Looney Tunes person, instead of an action person, that's okay. But I really want to take time and I want to ask you to challenge yourself to know you this week. Find out something about you that maybe you did not know, or you did not own, or you did not accept. This week, take a moment and look at your circle of 5, because this is what I do. I put it on one of these videos before. I do this every year, maybe twice a year. I used to do it often. I put down the people I'm closest to the most. And now in social media, you can do that too. Like, who do you listen to the most? 5 people I'm around the most, because it's a scientific fact. You become like the 5 people you're around the most. I put that down and I say, okay, once I have been in the presence of these people, how do I feel? Plus sign, minus sign, equal to. Plus sign, I feel better. I feel positive. No matter what the conversation was, we're good, we're great, whatever. I feel like I can grow. I feel like I can see them again. I feel like it was good, Equal to, there's no difference. There's no difference in my reality. There's no difference in anything. Like, life does not change. It doesn't matter. If I see you, yeah, I see you. If I don't, I don't. Nothing matters. Negative, minus sign. Every time I'm around you, I leave heavier, weightier, more depleted, more depressed. Like something's just not right. Like slighted, like negative. Like, what is that? Those have to go. Okay, those can't be there. Those have to go. Bye-bye. Be honest enough with yourself to write them down, to own them and accept them. Be honest. And watch how your life change. Now, this is not something to be angry at. You might be angry for a moment, like righteous indignation, like, why did I allow this? Why? And I realized because I really love people and I want to get wanted to have a chance to let them know how much I love them, because I saw what may have been wrong. But that wasn't my job. Because in the interim, I was being depleted. Some people attach themselves to you because of where they know you can go. The problem is that spirits speak up and it doesn't want you to get there. So you got this cheering you on and this one saying, stop, chop, 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 chop. You know what I mean? And you have to recognize that. And you have to be honest. I don't care. Don't allow yourself to be a chain to what has been. We can be chains to people that we feel we owe. Well, they were with me when I went through this, and they were with me when the lowest time of my life, and they were with me, and that may be true. And that's who God had in place at that time. But you're no longer in that time. The purpose of you being in that time was to be in that time, to get past that time, to go to another time. If they are aligned, have the opportunity to go. If they're not aligned, they were there to get you where you needed to be so you can go. And you them. And it's okay. It's okay. Because do you like who you are? And are you who you want to be, who you are called to be? So anyway, go where you're celebrated, not tolerated. It's okay. This isn't going to be the season where you beg for phone calls or you limit yourself to one group or one familiarity, or you limit yourself to your likes and dislikes. This is the season where this is the era where we're doing a face-off. Remember, this is showdown. I want you to step out like that cowboy and face whatever lies that have been there. Face whatever you are allowing to mistreat you, and why. Why do you feel the need to be around people that demise you? Even if it's little simple jokes. Let me tell you something. You watch those little simple, look like they jokes, like, you're so ugly. Like, a joke is never to demean you. Never. And that's when I started checking things. Because I am goofy and I'm fun. This is a serious conversation, but I'm goofy and I'm fun. And I remember the one friend, she said to me, she made a comment about me being dumb because I played the scarecrow in our church play. She made a comment about me being slow and dumb, and they became frequent comments. And I said, yeah, but I'm smart enough to play dumb. I ain't dumb by a long shot. I'm smart enough to play dumb. And see, she got very offended with that because let me tell you something, spirits, when they get checked, they get mad because it's designed for you not to see them. You have to learn to see them. Show the spirit you see them in love. You ain't got to be rude. You ain't got to be nasty. You ain't got to curse. You ain't got to do all that. No, in the words of Whitney B, I'm a lady. I love Whitney because I have class. I love it. But anyway, that's where we are. We're not taking any of that into November. We're not taking that. I'm giving you the end of, I did it intentionally in the end of October so that when we're getting ready for Thanksgiving week and family and friends and all that gatherings, we are going to be free and we are going to start evolving like the butterfly that's on my logo. Transformation, baby. Positive change, positive actions. And on that same note, just like we confront the spirit when it's wrong, if there's something you need to get right, clutch your pearls, grow up. Let's go to the person. If you've done them wrong, or even if they've done you wrong, for the spirit of peace, go and say, you know what? This thing that I did, I feel it offended you, or this thing you did, I feel it offended me, and I really want to get it right, especially as the body of Christ. That should be our go-to. We should stay with a key ready to go and make peace. Because when we don't, we give a foothold to the enemy. The Bible says that we give access. Remember, we're not giving access to the enemy. All he needs is access. Closed doors. You ain't getting up in here to cause more problems because you're going to come in here and then you're going to affect this and you're going to bondage me. We're freedom, baby. Freedom here. Okay? So if you need to get it right, go get it right. Let this be the week that you get it right and get out of it if need be. I'm saying that all in love. And wherever it lands, know that it lands in love and be real to yourself. We used to have a saying, people used to say it all the time, to thine own self be true. Life is too short for you to walk around being in misogynistic relationships, being in these different type of relationships that are bonding you. And you know every time you leave them, something ain't right. You know that. And I'm not talking about, listen, don't try me. Don't put this on no, I'm married and we just ain't working. I ain't going against marriage. I ain't doing that. If God called it together, let no man put it asunder. Y'all work it out. There are opportunities, there are resources for that. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about intentionally misuse, abusive relationships, unhealthy relationships. Y'all understand that, right? So this is what I wanted to talk about today. The main thing I wanted to talk about today, and I hope this bless someone. Go where you're celebrated. And I promise you, as you continue to grow in you, get to know you. That's why I can't wait till the book gets here. I keep saying it. Oh my God. I put it out before I could even order it. And it takes longer for the author copies because I was so excited about it because I know what it can do. It's the Because I Matter daily planner and self-care journal. As you're going through your self-care, we do our daily planners every day. So often we don't even remember us. We don't put us on our planner. We're so busy trying to do everything else, do everything for everybody else. And that is bondage. It's people pleasing. Codependency is what it is, which is really, really big. We don't talk about it much, especially in church, because yes, we are called to serve, but Jesus went by himself for many a day to get it together, to just spend time with the Lord. I heard Tony Evans say this one time. Jesus spent more time in prayer so he spent more time in prayer with the Father so he could spend more time with people, so he could spend less time with people. He spent more time in prayer with the Father so he could spend less time with people. because of the time he spent with the Father and in prayer. The time he spent with people was more intentional and more fulfilling and on point. So, I'm always throwing back to prayer. So everything in that planner aligns with that and just helping you to become fulfilled in every area of your life. Nothing will ever be perfect, but you will have perfect peace. I can bet that. I can bank on that. Jesus, you'll have perfect peace, especially. So I hope this blessed you in a special way. I wanted to share one other thing with you, and please feel free to email, like, subscribe, and share. Comment when this post at 12:11 today. That's perfectly fine. I love to hear from you. Any ideas that you have, and that's great. So love you on that. But I wanted to share something real quick. Listen, back to health on Tashay Life, because we're talking about all things life. Okay, strength through true testimony transformation. Some things I had to learn when I switched to a different climate. So we're switching gears right now. When coming from Florida, it's sunny all the time. It's like 78 degrees. Coming here to Georgia, it get cold. I ain't used to cold and seasonal temperatures. So I had to learn to strengthen my body in a different way. I've always been pretty healthy, thank God, but in a different way. And I had to add some supplements. Now, I am not a doctor. Please seek medical advice. All the other stuff that they tell you to do, I'm not telling you to get it. I am telling you what I suggest would be something good to keep in your medicine cabinet. You can go do your research and figure it out yourself. I listen to Barbara O'Neill. Can't think of this one doctor name, but Barbara O'Neill is one. I love to listen to her almost everything. But some goodies that I keep in my medicine cabinet at all times because I have known them to help. First of all, red onion. I meant to get that out of the refrigerator. I keep a red onion. Any of y'all old school Southern people know about a red onion. Okay? No, I'm not a doctor, but whatever, all that. Listen, I had a little cough the other day, cut that red onion up like I knew my grandma used to tell me, my mama used to tell me, put a piece up under my foot, work on that cough. That's what I did. That little light cough. Okay? But red onions definitely keep during the winter season, as the fall and winter season is coming in. I also keep oregano oil. Now, I use this one. I don't know if you can see it. I'm not promoting this brand per se, but it is oregano oil, organic, wild oregano oil with 80% Carver Crawl. Anyway, all I know, oregano oil is antimicrobial, antibacterial, and antiviral. When we get colds and stuff, the medicines we take don't work on viruses because they're airborne. But oregano oil works with viral, microbial, which is your gut, and bacterial. And it is amazing. I take it, I put for me, when I feel like a little cough or cold coming on, or any of my children, I take about 2 to 4 drops under my tongue in the morning. And I usually use a carrier oil. So extra virgin organic olive oil. You can't use coconut, but I use extra virgin organic olive oil. You can just put in a few drops of water, drink it down. May not be for you. Do your research first. I'm just letting you know that is what I do. And it totally helps with my respiratory, cold, cough, sinus, and things of that nature. So I do that. And lastly, for my gut, I definitely, not saying I use this brand, but I use Slippery Elm. Slippery Elm is amazing for the gut. Even for ulcers, acid reflux, because when you take it, it's like a gel, in like a mucus looking gel in it once it gets wet, but it coats the stomach. So if you have like ulcer pain or anything like that, or you ate a lot of spicy foods and it's stinging or stuff like that, it actually coats the stomach. So I keep those goodies with me on hand, and they're natural. That's what I love. Is there anything else besides the red? Oh, cayenne pepper. I keep cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper is really good. I keep cayenne pepper because it helps with circulation. So even if your feet are cold, which is a big thing, which is a sign of maybe not so good circulation, for me, But I take it and I can put it in my socks on the bottom of my foot, and it warms up my feet. So those are just some fun things as the seasons are changing, because we talk about all things life and things that will help. So I am challenging you. I want to know what you keep in your medicine cabinet, what you keep in your herbal cabinet. And I also would like to know what you are going to learn about, what you learned about you this week. So when we meet next week, please share. I love to hear what you learned about you. What are you going to do about some relationship breaches? And also, we'll talk more about repairing relationships as well, because that's important. I'm not saying throw everybody away. As much as we can, live at peace with all men. I'm talking about some of those relationships that get to the point where there's no peace and they're starting to deplete you and tear you down, which is what the enemy wants. Because how can two walk together unless they agree? A house divided cannot stand. And the enemy loves division. So even if you separate, but there's forgiveness and peace, he doesn't like the peace. So we're not going to let him win. He's not going to have any more open doors up in here. So I pray this blesses you as much as you being here bless me. Know that I love you. I am your girl, Alma T, and this is Touche Life, where we gain our strength through truth, testimony, and transformation. There's no more shame. There's no more shame. There's freedom and truth. I love you like a lot. I hope you have an amazing day. Hope you have an amazing week. And I'll be stopping in soon. Later.